And
we're good.
Oh.
Is that the way?
Starting pistol, go! Your time starts now.
We're gonna get this done quickly for your safety. Ready? Yeah? Okay. So, if I make a reference to Doctor Who, does everyone know what that is, or do I have to explain it a little bit?
I know what.
explain it.
We can explain it.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
So, it's a sci-fi show. It's about this guy. He's from another planet, obviously, or it wouldn't be sci-fi. But he basically travels through space and time and he saves people. I'm obsessed, no shame in saying that, to the point that I actually kind of dress like him when I go to work now at my job as a physician's assistant. So that's a little background about me and a little bit about where I'm coming from in this story, and that I think that the Doctor is like the ideal hero. I mean, he's very, you'll hear. All right. Hello, I'm the Doctor. Are you hungry? I was in the very Victorian guise of my ultimate hero, the Doctor from Doctor Who, in my bow tie, vest, and pocket chain as I walked on one of several of my daily lunch procuring trips. On multiple of these occasions, I had seen a particular homeless man hanging out on a nearby bus bench. He was a 50-ish-year-old slim man who was completely bald on the top of his head, and he had a band of bushy grayish-black hair from ear to ear around the back of his head, and that connected to his bushy grayish-black beard. He muttered incoherently to himself, and his face correspondingly varied from confusion to elation to surprise. His clothing, which was larger than his slim build, was from head to toe the same dingy charcoal gray color. He wore 2 pairs of jeans, of which the outermost pair had large holes that extended far beyond normal knee wear. Whether his clothes started out that grayish color or they had been changed by the filth of downtown Los Angeles, we'll never know. But his visage was all over very dull, monkish, and reminiscent of Picasso's Blue Period. And for those of you who don't know, Picasso's Blue Period was the period during which Picasso painted mostly doleful and monochromatic figures like prostitutes and the impoverished. This guy certainly seemed impoverished, but I can't comment on his sexual practices. Usually I shy away from giving cash to homeless people. In my experiences in DC and in downtown LA, it had always been impressed to me by the locals that the homeless people were those trying to get a fix, be it alcohol or some other vice. Now, I'm not sure whether that's completely fair or true, but regardless, I usually never carry cash anyways. However, on one previous occasion I had passed him, and on my way back, gave him the change from my lunch purchase on a day I did have cash because I felt fate had compelled me to do so. I'll admit a surge of altruistic joy and welling up of visceral warmth as I made a deposit into my personal karma bank. I also, to this point, had made certain not to share this incident with anyone else because who wants to be considered a humble bragger? You know. No. The case above and the one that follows were both cases of genuine humanism. So, to continue from earlier, I had seen our friend a couple of weeks following the previous encounter giving him cash, sitting in his usual spot on the bus bench one day as I passed, venturing to grab my lunch at the local grocery store a couple of blocks away. As I passed him, sitting with his bag of what I assumed were his most precious valuables, I immediately started thinking about the luxury of being able to leave a paying job, walk to a grocery store, and buy literally anything I wanted to eat for lunch, in stark contrast to this fellow. I thought of how wonderful it might be to have someone share something as simple as, say, a chocolate bar, if I were destitute. In my mind, I had already written the narrative, done the staging, felt the emotions of the whole scene. It was my opportunity to finally embody the Doctor as somebody's hero. I'd approach, ask, "Are you hungry?" offer the bag, and the rest would play out beautifully. He might even tear up at this showing of human compassion, and I would, with a reassuring smile, tell him to enjoy. I took an extra few minutes in the grocery store to gather a boar's head turkey sandwich, because I had enjoyed their sandwiches several times on coast-to-coast Delta flights. And orange, because I mean vitamin C, I wanted to boost his immune system. The aforementioned chocolate bar, and a water. I was so pleased with this spread as it was lowered into the brown paper Ralph's grocery bag. I walked out beaming brightly enough to rival the sun and all my self-righteous altruistic glory. I made my way back toward the bus bench where I had earlier seen him waiting. I was so eager to give him this meal, and I played the phrase over and over in my mind's eye. I was finally going to be the Doctor. Are you hungry? Please, take this, and have a great day. As I approached, my pulse quickened. This was the moment. I walked up and asked my well-rehearsed question. My hopes were summarily satisfied when he replied with an almost whispered and sincere, well-spoken, yes. Like he was speaking on behalf of the whole of human suffering. His eyes looked almost Disney-esque in size and twinkle. Please, take this and have a great day, my friend. He took the bag from me and placed it next to him on the bench. I continued on my way so as not to seem eager for praise, back to work. I stopped twice to look behind and saw him, mouth agape, watching me walk away. My God, I thought, he's dumbfounded. For the next 3 hours, I continued with work, seeing patients, not giving a second thought to my food beneficiary. Toward the end of work, I decided I'd go check on my friend. In my vanity, I half expected him to be sitting, head back, reclined in ecstasy, on the bus bench, lowering a slice of orange into his anticipating mouth. I opened the front door and looked out at the bench. The bench was empty, my friend and his wares gone, save for the brown paper Ralph's bag that stood proudly. Oh, he must have left his trash. I'll just go toss it for him, I said joyfully to myself. With the bench a few steps away, I was giddy with anticipation to see the bag filled with the trappings of a well-enjoyed meal. The orange peel, the paper and cellophane bag from the boar's head sandwich, the empty water bottle, and of course, the Hershey's chocolate bar wrapper. As I neared the bench, what the very fuck? He hadn't touched a single item in the bag. I laughed incredulously and looked to see if he was still around, but he was nowhere in sight. He and his Picasso blue-gray belongings had vanished. He had left every bit of the food in the bag untouched. My mind began to pore over the situation. I hadn't prepared myself for the possibility that he might not take the food. I mean, why did he even take the bag if he was going to leave it on the bench? He said he was hungry, and I got him a boar's head sandwich, for God's sake. That's not just some Oscar Mayer shit. That's boar's head. In the moments that followed, I feel quite certain that to anyone watching, I must have looked like a spy retrieving a drop. I looked around nervously before I lifted the bag from the bench and continued back to the office. I put the bag in the refrigerator and I continued to work. For the remainder of work, at least subconsciously, I kept reviewing the whole experience, trying to figure out why a man who has next to nothing would have decided against a free meal. Was he just one of those people hoping to get just money for alcohol or drugs? Was it because the bag of food was from a complete stranger? Was it because it was from Ralph's instead of Whole Foods or Trader Joe's? Was it because he likes organic, sustainable, free-range, grass-fed, hormone-free, cage-free, non-GMO, locally sourced, gluten-free, single-origin, or vegan meals? Could he be lactose intolerant? Maybe he had an emergency that required immediate attention. I mean, in retrospection, I suppose he had no more reason to accept a bag of food than someone living in a mansion would. Perhaps he took the bag from me just to be polite to me out of his own sense of compassion. The bag, unwanted by my phantom friend, sat in the refrigerator for days after until the boar's head sandwich and the orange had actually started to turn. Maybe the lesson from all this is that I shouldn't have looked to see if the bag was empty. I had built myself up on the expectations of this situation because I was excited about how gratifying my gifting this simple gesture to someone with so little was to me. I also assumed that because he was homeless that he must be hungry. The assumption that he must want food is, in its own way, as ill-derived as the assumption that all homeless people want alcohol or drugs. A bag of untouched food in the hands of a man who's not satiated by food. To make my Doctor Who comparison again, even the doctor doesn't necessarily save people, but when presented with a situation, he does what is morally correct, and I think that's what I did.